Distant rumblings. In a remote corner of the Orion Arm, an unassuming yellow star burned steadily, its system home to a small blue planet. Unremarkable from an astronomical standpoint, this world had gone unnoticed by the great spacefaring civilizations that had risen and fallen over the eons. But the inhabitants of this obscure planet, known to themselves as humans, were about to send shockwaves through the cosmos. Unbeknownst to humanity, the galaxy was embroiled in a cataclysmic war. Two mighty alien empires, the Zorgans and the Quanti, had been locked in a struggle for supremacy that had raged for centuries. The battle lines cut across star systems, engulfing countless worlds in the fires of destruction. Many once great civilizations found themselves caught between these two juggernauts, forced to choose sides or be crushed underfoot. As the war ground on with no end in sight, a third faction emerged from the ashes. The Galactic Alliance, a loose coalition of smaller alien races, banded together in a desperate bid for survival. Outmatched and outnumbered, they fought valiantly, scoring occasional victories against their titanic foes. But the Alliance was slowly losing ground, each battle bringing them closer to annihilation. A plea to the periphery. In the halls of the Galactic Council, a cavernous chamber carved into an asteroid in neutral space, the debate raged. Representatives from the beleaguered Alliance worlds argued fiercely, their holographic forms flickering with agitation. "We cannot hold out much longer," implored the Lyranian delegate, her feathered crest drooping with exhaustion. "Our fleets are in tatters, our worlds stripped bare to fuel the war machine. We need a miracle." "Miracles are in short supply these days," growled the stony-faced Krillian ambassador. "What we need are numbers, ships, soldiers, and there's only one place left to find them." Uneasy murmurs rippled through the chamber. They all knew where this was heading. The Krillian gestured to the shimmering star map that dominated the center of the room. With a flick of his talons, he zoomed in on a small innocuous dot at the edge of the galactic disk. There, that little blue world. What do they call it? Earth. The chamber erupted into a cacophony of protests. "The humans, are you insane?" spluttered a gelatinous Zornachthy. "They're primitives. They've barely achieved interstellar flight." "They're a pre-contact civilization," chimed in another. "It's against every principle of the Council to interfere with their natural development." The Krillian silenced the uproar with a slash of his claw. "I'm well aware of our laws and principles," he rumbled. "But principles will not save us from annihilation. The humans may be young, but they are fierce. They have a strength, a resilience, that we desperately need." The Lyranian delegate cocked her head thoughtfully. "It's true," she mused. "Our scouts have observed their world. They are a fractious species, constantly at war with each other, but they are also inventive, adaptable. They have achieved much in a short time." A heavy silence blanketed the room as each delegate grappled with the magnitude of the proposal. The Galactic Council, a body sworn to uphold the integrity of the cosmic order, was seriously contemplating breaking its most sacred tenet: never interfere with a developing world. But such was the desperate nature of their plight. One by one, the representatives nodded their assent. The decision was made. The humans would be contacted. Whether they could be persuaded to join the fight remained to be seen. But for the first time in years, the Galactic Alliance felt a flicker of hope. Perhaps these strange, unpredictable creatures from the edge of the map might just be the miracle they needed. An offer from the stars. On Earth, life continued as it always had. Wars raged. Fortunes rose and fell. The planet spun on, heedless of the cosmic drama unfolding beyond its skies. Until the day the message arrived. It came in the form of a signal, a complex pattern of radio waves that lit up every telescope and listening post across the globe. Governments scrambled to decipher it, rival nations suddenly united by the magnitude of the event. The message was translated, then retranslated, the momentous news rippling out to every corner of the planet. Humanity was not alone, and their cosmic neighbors needed their help. The message was an urgent plea from the Galactic Alliance, beseeching the humans to join their struggle against the Zorgan and Quanti empires. It spoke of a galaxy consumed by war, of worlds and peoples teetering on the brink of destruction, and it offered humanity a chance to take its place on the galactic stage, to forge a new destiny among the stars, a species united. The people of Earth were stunned. Here was confirmation of the question that had haunted them for centuries. Were they alone in the universe? The answer was a resounding no. Not only was there life beyond their skies, but that life needed them. Global leaders convened in hasty summits, debating the merits and perils of joining an intergalactic war. Some balked at the dangers, arguing that Earth had troubles enough without borrowing those of the cosmos. But others saw opportunity, a chance to unite humanity under a common banner and take their rightful place in the tapestry of the galaxy. In the end, the decision was made. With a resolve rarely seen in their fractious history, the nations of Earth put aside their differences and forged a united front. They would answer the call of the Galactic Alliance. They would join the fight. Preparations and promises. What followed was a flurry of activity unseen since the great conflicts of Earth's past. Resources were pooled, industries retooled, and populations mobilized. The brightest minds were gathered to decipher the advanced technologies hinted at in the Alliance's message. Weapons were forged, ships designed, and soldiers trained. Through it all, a sense of purpose and unity suffused the planet. For the first time in memory, humanity was working towards a common goal. Old rivalries and grudges were set aside in the face of this greater challenge. A species that had long been defined by its divisions found a new identity in its shared destiny. As the first fleet of human ships lifted off from Earth's surface, watched by billions of hopeful eyes, a message was sent to the stars. It was a simple response to the Alliance's plea, but it carried the weight of a species' determination. We are coming. The galaxy would never be the same. The human armada. When the first human fleet transitioned into Alliance space, it sent shockwaves through the galaxy. Allies and enemies alike had been expecting a ragtag band of primitives, barely capable of interstellar flight. What they got was something else entirely. The human ships were unlike anything the galaxy had seen. Sleek and angular, they bore little resemblance to the bulbous, organic designs favored by most species. Their hulls were a patchwork of alloys, ceramic composites, and advanced polymers, materials that the Alliance had dismissed as inferior to their own neutronium-laced supermetals. But the humans had fashioned these humble ingredients into something extraordinary. The ships moved with a fluid grace that belied their size, their formations tight and precise. To the Alliance tacticians, accustomed to the ponderous maneuvers of their own vessels, it was a revelation. The human fleet seemed to dance through space, each ship perfectly placed, each movement calculated for maximum effect. As the fleet drew closer, the Alliance command could only stare in awe. These were not the ships of a primitive species. These were the tools of a civilization that had honed its craft through centuries of conflict, that had learned to do more with less, to adapt and innovate in the face of adversity. The humans might be new to the galactic stage, but they were no strangers to war. The art of asymmetry. The true measure of the human fleet came in their first engagement. A Zorgan warband, long the scourge of the sector, had been harrying Alliance supply lines for months. The beleaguered Alliance forces, their numbers thinned by endless skirmishes, could do little but watch helplessly as their lifelines were cut. Enter the humans. The Zorgan commander, a grizzled veteran of 100 campaigns, saw the small human fleet as barely worth his notice. He arrayed his ships in a standard formation, a wall of armored behemoths bristling with enough firepower to reduce a planet to slag. Against such might, what could these upstart primates hope to achieve? He soon found out. The human ships, small and nimble, darted towards the Zorgan line, then scattered like leaves in a gale. The Zorgan fire control systems, calibrated for larger, slower targets, struggled to track the elusive human craft. Confusion rippled through the Zorgan ranks as the humans flitted between their ships, too close for the big guns to target effectively. Then the humans struck. Precision railgun slugs, accelerated to a fraction of light speed, slipped through weaknesses in the Zorgon shields as if they were tissue paper. Neutron torpedoes, barely a blip on the Zorgon sensors, burrowed deep into armored hulls before detonating with cataclysmic force. Swarms of drones, each no larger than a human hand, swept over the Zorgon ships, blinding sensors and sowing chaos. The Zorgon commander watched in disbelief as his mighty warships, the pride of the Empire, were systematically dismantled by an enemy a fraction of their size. The humans were everywhere and nowhere, striking and fading like phantoms. Their tactics were unlike anything the Zorgon had encountered, a dizzying blend of misdirection, precision, and calculated audacity. In mere hours, it was over. The once proud Zorgon warband limped away, trailing debris and plasma. The humans had suffered losses, but nothing compared to the devastation they had wrought. The Alliance forces could only watch in stunned silence as the magnitude of the upset sank in. The primitive primates from the backwater world had just humbled one of the galaxy's most fearsome militaries. The repercussions were immediate and far-reaching. Across the galaxy, eyes turned towards this new player on the field. Some, like the Quanti, saw a new threat rising. Others, downtrodden and oppressed, saw a glimmer of hope. But all agreed on one thing: the humans were not to be underestimated. Whispers and wonders. As news of the humans' victory spread, so too did stories of their strange ways. Alliance soldiers, long accustomed to rigid hierarchies and unquestioning obedience, marveled at the easy camaraderie between human officers and their subordinates. Human commanders led from the front, their authority stemming from competence and respect rather than rank and tradition. Even more remarkable were the tales of human adaptability. Alliance engineers watched in awe as human technicians jury-rigged repairs using whatever was at hand, coaxing damaged systems back to life with an ingenuity that bordered on magic. Human medics worked wonders, their understanding of biology and medicine far outstripping what their level of technology would suggest. And then there were the human soldiers themselves. They were a breed apart, their skills honed in the crucible of Earth's long, bloody history. They were fierce in battle, fearless and determined, but also compassionate, always ready to aid an ally or spare a defeated foe. Their resilience in the face of adversity, their ability to find humor and hope in the darkest of times, was quickly becoming the stuff of legend. Slowly but surely, the tide of the war began to turn. The Zorgon and Quanti, long used to fighting a demoralized and fractured alliance, now found themselves facing a reinvigorated foe, bolstered by human ships, human technology, and human spirit. The initiative shifted, the invincible juggernauts of the twin empires suddenly seeming vulnerable, even fallible. For the first time in generations, the Alliance dared to dream of victory, and at the heart of those dreams were the humans, the unlikely heroes from the edge of the map. The galaxy had dismissed them, underestimated them, but no longer. Now, as the balance of power teetered, one thing was clear: the humans had arrived, and the universe would never be the same. Ripples and waves. As the human-led victories mounted, their impact began to be felt far beyond the front lines. In the halls of power on 100 worlds, leaders and strategists scrambled to adapt to this new reality. The old certainties, the established order that had governed the galaxy for millennia, were crumbling. For the Zorgon and Quanti empires, the rise of the humans was a bitter pill to swallow. They had long seen themselves as the undisputed masters of the galaxy, their supremacy assured by their ancient might and advanced technologies. To be challenged, not just by an upstart species, but by one they considered primitive, was a humiliation beyond bearing. In the imperial courts, recriminations flew and heads rolled. Generals and admirals, once feted as conquering heroes, found themselves in disgrace, their failures laid bare by the human onslaught. The Emperor of the Zorgons, a towering figure who had reigned for centuries, was even forced to abdicate, a victim of his own hubris in underestimating the humans. But while the twin empires reeled, The Alliance surged with newfound vigor. The human victories were a tonic to the war-weary coalition, a proof that the invincible could be beaten. That hope was not lost. Across the Alliance worlds, a new spirit of defiance and determination took hold. Recruitment surged as tales of human valor spread. Alliance soldiers, once demoralized and fatalistic, now fought with a fierce resolve, inspired by the example of their human comrades. Even the most battle-hardened veterans found themselves infected by the humans' indomitable spirit. But it wasn't just on the battlefield that the humans were making their mark. Innovation and imagination. In the labs and workshops of the Alliance, human scientists and engineers were causing a stir. Their approach to problem-solving, a unique blend of creativity, pragmatism, and sheer audacity, was unlike anything the galaxy had seen. Where Alliance researchers were often stymied by conventional thinking and bureaucratic inertia, the humans charged ahead, unafraid to challenge established norms. They repurposed technologies in ways their original designers had never dreamed of, combining disparate fields of knowledge to create solutions that seemed to border on magic. A prime example was the development of the phasic barrier. This technology, which allowed ships to pass through solid matter, had long been considered a theoretical impossibility by Alliance scientists. The physics were sound, but the engineering challenges were deemed insurmountable. Enter a team of human physicists and engineers. In a burst of inspired brilliance, they cracked the problem, drawing on principles from quantum mechanics, superstring theory, and an obscure branch of metamaterials research. Within months, they had a working prototype. The implications were staggering. With the phasic barrier, Alliance ships could now bypass enemy blockades, striking deep into enemy territory with impunity. Zorgan and Quanti defenses, once considered impregnable, were suddenly rendered obsolete. It was a pattern that repeated itself across every field of endeavor. Human medical researchers developed new therapies that could heal injuries once considered fatal. Human tacticians devised strategies that rewrote the rules of warfare. Human diplomats forged new alliances, winning over species that had long been neutral or hostile. Slowly but surely, the balance of power was shifting. The Zorgan and Quanti empires, once the unassailable titans of the galaxy, found themselves on the defensive, struggling to counter the relentless tide of human innovation. The turning point, the pivotal moment, came in the Battle of Helios Prime. This system, a vital crossroads of trade and military routes, had long been a bastion of Zorgan power. Its defenses were legendary, a labyrinthine network of fortresses, minefields, and gun platforms that had turned back countless Alliance assaults. But the humans had a plan. In a daring gambit, a small team of human special forces, equipped with phasic barrier generators, infiltrated the Zorgan command center. In a lightning strike, they seized control of the defense grid, turning the Zorgan's own weapons against them. Simultaneously, the main human fleet engaged the Zorgan armada, employing a dazzling array of new tactics and technologies. Swarms of AI-controlled fighter craft, each no larger than a human fighter jet, darted through the Zorgan formations, sowing chaos and confusion. Phasic barrier-equipped battleships materialized in the heart of the enemy fleet, catching the Zorgans completely off guard. The battle was fierce and costly, but in the end, the outcome was never in doubt. The Zorgan fleet, the pride of the Empire, was shattered, its remnants fleeing into the void. Helios Prime, the invincible fortress, fell to the Alliance. The shockwaves from this victory reverberated across the galaxy. For the first time in living memory, the Zorgan Empire had been defeated in a head-on fight. The myth of their invincibility was broken, shattered by the ingenuity and determination of the upstart humans. In the aftermath of Helios Prime, something shifted in the galaxy's psyche. A sense of possibility, long dormant, began to stir. If the Zorgans could be beaten, then perhaps the Quanti could too. Perhaps the eternal cycle of war and subjugation could be broken. Perhaps, with the humans at their side, the Alliance could dream of something more than mere survival. For the humans, the victory was a vindication of all they had fought for. But it was also a sobering reminder of the responsibility they now bore. They had entered this war as outsiders, as upstarts seeking to prove themselves. Now, they found themselves at the center of a galactic drama, the pivot around which the fate of billions would turn. It was a heavy burden, but one they shouldered with characteristic resolve. For better or worse, humanity had staked its claim among the stars, and they would see this fight through to the end, no matter the cost. A new kind of leadership. In the wake of Helios Prime, a new dynamic began to emerge within the Alliance. The humans, once the outsiders, found themselves increasingly looked to for leadership and guidance. It was a role they accepted with a mix of humility and determination. Leading the charge was Admiral Selena Cho, the architect of the Helios Prime victory. A veteran of Earth's own wars, Cho embodied the best of the human spirit, courageous, innovative, and fiercely protective of those under her command. Under her leadership, the Alliance began to coalesce into a true fighting force, united by a common purpose. Cho's style of command was a revelation to the Alliance, where many alien leaders ruled through fear and intimidation. Cho led by example, always willing to put herself on the line for her troops. She made a point of getting to know those under her command, regardless of species or rank. To her, every life mattered. Every individual had value. This philosophy extended to her tactical approach. Cho understood that in a war of this scale, attrition was a losing strategy. Every ship, every soldier lost was irreplaceable. So instead of throwing lives away in frontal assaults, she pioneered a new doctrine emphasizing speed, precision, and asymmetric warfare. Under Cho's guidance, Alliance strike teams began to penetrate deep into enemy territory, targeting key infrastructure and leadership targets. Zorgan and Quanti supply lines, once thought secure, were suddenly vulnerable. Key industrial hubs, communications relays, and command centers fell to lightning raids. The effect was devastating. The twin empires, long accustomed to dictating the terms of engagement, found themselves in a reactive mode, always one step behind the Alliance's strikes. Their once formidable war machines began to falter, starved of resources and paralyzed by disrupted command structures. The power of unity. But Cho's greatest contribution was perhaps in the realm of diplomacy. She understood that to truly defeat the twin empires, the Alliance needed more than military victories. They needed to win the hearts and minds of the galaxy's many neutral and vassal species. To this end, Cho embarked on a campaign of outreach and diplomacy. She reached out to species that had long been overlooked or dismissed by the major powers, offering them a seat at the table, a chance to shape their own destinies. Her message was simple but powerful. The Alliance was fighting not just for its own survival, but for the right of all species to live free from tyranny and oppression. Under human leadership, the Alliance would be a force for justice and self-determination, a beacon of hope in a galaxy long darkened by war. The response was overwhelming. Species that had long suffered under Zorgan or Quanti rule flocked to the Alliance banner. Resistance movements on occupied worlds, long fragmented and demoralized, found new unity and purpose. Even some Zorgan and Quanti vassal states, chafing under the yoke of their overlords, began to defect. The effect was a strategic shift of seismic proportions. The twin empires, once able to draw on the resources of 1,000 subject worlds, now found their grip slipping. They were forced to divert more and more of their forces to garrison duty, trying to hold on to what they had conquered. This, in turn, opened up new opportunities for the Alliance. With the enemy spread thin, Cho and her commanders were able to pick their battles, striking where the enemy was weakest. The initiative, once firmly in the hands of the twin empires, had shifted decisively to the Alliance. Innovation unleashed. Even as the tide of the war turned, the humans continued to push the boundaries of what was possible. Freed from the constraints of hidebound military tradition, human engineers and scientists unleashed a torrent of innovation. One of the most significant breakthroughs came in the field of artificial intelligence. Human researchers, building on the groundbreaking work of Earth's own AI pioneers, developed a new generation of intelligent systems that could think and learn at a staggering pace. These AI were not the rigid, rule-bound constructs of the twin empires, but adaptive, intuitive systems that could analyze vast amounts of data, identify patterns, and devise strategies in real time. Integrated into the Alliance's ships and weapons, they acted as force multipliers, allowing a single vessel to operate with the effectiveness of a full battle group. But the humans didn't stop there. They pioneered new forms of weaponry, like the graviton lance, which could collapse a target's mass into a microscopic singularity. They developed advanced cloaking technologies that rendered ships invisible to all forms of detection. They even experimented with exotic physics, tapping into the fundamental forces of the universe itself. The effect of these innovations was profound. The once unstoppable armadas of the twin empires now found themselves outmatched technologically as well as tactically. Their ships, once the pinnacle of military might, were suddenly vulnerable, their defenses unable to cope with the dizzying array of new threats. A galaxy transformed. As the war entered its final stages, the scale of the transformation that had swept the galaxy became clear. The old order, the centuries-old hegemony of the twin empires, was crumbling. In its place, a new balance of power was emerging, one shaped by the ideals of freedom, self-determination, and unity. At the heart of this transformation were the humans. In a few short years, they had risen from obscurity to become the driving force behind the most significant events in galactic history. Their courage, their ingenuity, and their indomitable spirit had rewritten the rules of what was possible. But the humans themselves were changing too. The trials of the war, the bonds forged in battle, had transformed them. No longer were they the fractious, divided species that had left Earth. They were united now, forged into a single people by the crucible of conflict. As the Alliance fleet gathered for the final push, a sense of destiny hung in the air. The humans had come so far, achieved so much. But the greatest challenge still lay ahead. The twin empires, though battered and diminished, still commanded immense resources and vast territories. To defeat them utterly would require a final Herculean effort. But the humans were ready. They had staked their claim among the stars, proved their worth on a galactic stage. Now, as the fate of billions hung in the balance, they would see this fight through to the end. The galaxy would never be the same. And at the center of it all, leading the charge into a new era, were the unlikely heroes from that small blue world on the edge of the cosmos. The humans had arrived, and the universe would forever bear the mark of their passage. The final push. As the Alliance fleet assembled for the final offensive, a sense of anticipation hung in the air. This was the moment they had all been fighting for. The chance to strike a decisive blow against the twin empires and end the war once and for all. The target was Zorgan Prime, the heart of the Zorgan Empire. This was the seat of the Empire's power, the nexus of its political, economic, and military might. If Zorgan Prime fell, the Zorgans would have no choice but to surrender. But taking Zorgan Prime would not be easy. The planet was a fortress, guarded by the most formidable defenses in the galaxy. Its skies were patrolled by endless fighter squadrons, its orbit studded with battle stations and missile platforms. On the surface, vast armies stood ready, equipped with the latest in Zorgan war technology. To even attempt an assault seemed madness. The casualties would be immense, the risks incalculable. But Admiral Cho had a plan. Deception and infiltration. The first stage of the plan was misdirection. Using a combination of decoy fleets and sophisticated jamming, the Alliance made it appear as though their main thrust would come from the opposite side of Zorgan space. The Zorgans, anticipating an attack on their outlying territories, shifted the bulk of their forces away from Zorgan Prime. Meanwhile, under the cover of this deception, a small team of human and alien special forces, led by Commander Marcus Riker, infiltrated Zorgan Prime. Their mission was to disable the planet's defense grid, opening the way for the main Alliance fleet. It was a mission fraught with danger. The team had to navigate a gauntlet of security checkpoints and patrol zones, relying on a combination of stealth, disguise, and lightning-fast strikes to avoid detection. More than once, they came within a hair's breadth of discovery, saved only by Riker's quick thinking and the superhuman reflexes of his human comrades. But against all odds, they made it through. In a daring raid, the team seized control of the Central Defense Command, disabling the planet's sensor arrays and anti-orbital batteries. For a crucial window of time, Zorgan Prime was blind and vulnerable. The hammer falls. That was the signal Admiral Cho had been waiting for. With Zorgan Prime's defenses down, she gave the order for the Alliance fleet to jump in. In an instant, the skies over the planet were filled with the flashes of arriving ships, as thousands of vessels materialized from hyperspace. The Zorgans, caught completely by surprise, scrambled to respond. Fighter squadrons raced to engage the Alliance ships, while ground-based batteries opened up with a barrage of laser and missile fire. But it was too little, too late. Under Cho's command, the Alliance fleet executed a series of precise, coordinated strikes. Waves of fighters and bombers swept down on key military installations, while capital ships targeted the planet's industrial and communications hubs. The goal was not to conquer Zorgan Prime, but to cripple its ability to wage war. On the ground, Alliance troops, bolstered by legions of local resistance fighters, engaged the Zorgan armies in a brutal ground war. The fighting was intense, a clash of advanced technology and raw, desperate courage. But the Alliance had the advantage of surprise, and the Zorgan forces, disoriented and cut off from their command structure, began to falter. In orbit, the Alliance fleet faced the full might of the Zorgan space forces. The battle was titanic, a swirling maelstrom of fire and debris that lit up the night side of the planet. Ships on both sides were destroyed by the dozen, the casualties mounting with every passing minute. But the Alliance had one final card to play: a new dawn. At the height of the battle, with both fleets locked in a brutal stalemate, a new wave of ships suddenly appeared on the Alliance's sensors. These were not Zorgan reinforcements, but a fleet of Quanti vessels, the emblems of the Quanti Empire emblazoned on their hulls. For a moment, the entire battle seemed to hold its breath. The Quanti were the Zorgans' oldest and staunchest allies. If they joined the fight, the Alliance would be hard-pressed to prevail. But as the Quanti ships drew closer, they did something unexpected. Instead of attacking the Alliance fleet, they turned their guns on the Zorgans. In a moment of stunned realization, the truth became clear. The Quanti had switched sides. It was a moment that would go down in galactic history. The Quanti, long the vassals and subordinates of the Zorgans, had finally broken free. Inspired by the Alliance's message of self-determination and unity, they had chosen to forge their own path. With the Quanti's help, the tide of the battle turned decisively. The Zorgan fleet, now outmatched and outflanked, began to break apart. Some ships surrendered, while others flowed into hyperspace. In a matter of hours, the mighty Zorgan space forces had been reduced to a shattered remnant. On the planet below, the news of the Quanti's defection spread like wildfire. Zorgan troops, already demoralized and pushed to the brink, began to lay down their arms en masse. Resistance cells, emboldened by the Alliance's success, rose up in open rebellion. By the time the sun rose over Zorgan Prime, the planet was firmly in Alliance hands. The war was over. The twin empires, the scourges of the galaxy for centuries, had been brought to their knees. A new era had dawned, one shaped by the ideals of freedom, unity, and self-determination. And at the center of it all, the architects of this galactic revolution were the humans. In just a few short years, they had risen from obscurity to become the saviors of the galaxy. Their courage, their ingenuity, and their unbreakable spirit had accomplished what had once seemed impossible. As the news of the victory spread, celebrations erupted across the galaxy. On 1,000 worlds, people of all species took to the streets, cheering the Alliance and the humans who had led them to freedom. The sacrifices had been immense, the cost in lives and resources staggering, but in the end, it had been worth it. A new chapter in galactic history had begun, and the humans would be at the forefront, guiding the galaxy into a brighter, more hopeful future. The war was over, but the story of humanity's role among the stars was just beginning. From warriors to builders, in the aftermath of the war, the galaxy faced a daunting task: rebuilding. The conflict had left a trail of destruction across countless worlds, with shattered cities, broken economies, and fractured societies. It was a challenge unlike any the galaxy had ever faced. But the Alliance, under human leadership, was determined to meet this challenge head-on. With the same determination and ingenuity they had shown in war, they turned their efforts towards peace. The first priority was humanitarian aid. Human ships, once filled with soldiers and weapons, now carried food, medicine, and construction materials. Alliance engineers and medics worked tirelessly to repair infrastructure, restore basic services, and tend to the wounded and displaced. But the humans understood that true peace would require more than just physical reconstruction. They knew that the scars of war ran deep, that the divisions and animosities of the past could not be erased overnight. So they embarked on a campaign of diplomacy and reconciliation. Human diplomats, trained in the art of conflict resolution, fanned out across the galaxy. They mediated disputes, fostered dialogue, and sought to build bridges between former enemies. They worked to create a new galactic order based on cooperation, mutual respect, and shared prosperity. A new era of discovery. As the galaxy began to heal, the humans turned their attention to another great challenge: exploration. The war had shown them just how vast and wondrous the universe truly was, and they were eager to uncover its secrets. Under the auspices of the newly formed Galactic Exploratory Corps, human scientists and adventurers set out to map the uncharted regions of space. They discovered new worlds, encountered exotic species, and pushed the boundaries of scientific knowledge. But the humans were not content to explore alone. They invited their alien allies to join them, to share in the thrill of discovery. Together, humans and aliens unlocked the mysteries of the cosmos, from the physics of black holes to the origins of life itself. This spirit of cooperation extended beyond the realm of science. Human artists collaborated with their alien counterparts, creating new forms of expression that transcended species and culture. Human philosophers engaged in dialogues with alien thinkers, seeking to understand the fundamental nature of existence. In this new era of peace and discovery, the old barriers between species began to break down. Humans and aliens learned from each other, grew together, and forged bonds of friendship and understanding that would have been unthinkable just a few years before. The legacy of humanity. As the years turned into decades, the role of humanity in the galaxy continued to evolve. The generation that had fought the war began to pass the torch to a new generation, one born into a galaxy at peace. These young humans, raised alongside alien friends and schooled in the ways of the wider universe, saw themselves not just as citizens of Earth, but as citizens of the galaxy. They were ambassadors, explorers, and dreamers, dedicated to carrying forward the ideals that their parents and grandparents had fought for. And the galaxy embraced them. Across the stars, humans were welcomed as friends, as partners, as fellow travelers on the great cosmic journey. The name human became synonymous not just with courage and ingenuity, but with hope, with the promise of a better tomorrow. But even as they were celebrated, the humans never forgot the lessons of their past. They knew that peace was fragile, that the specter of war always lurked in the shadows. So they remained vigilant, ready to defend the hard-won gains of the Alliance. They also knew that with great power came great responsibility. As one of the most advanced and influential species in the galaxy, they had a duty to use their position for good, to be a force for justice, compassion, and progress. A beacon in the stars. A century after the Great War, a great celebration was held on Earth. Representatives from every corner of the galaxy gathered to mark the anniversary of the Alliance's victory and to honor the sacrifices of those who had fought for freedom. Among the attendees were the descendants of the war's greatest heroes, the children of Admiral Cho, the grandchildren of Commander Riker, and the great-great-grandchildren of the countless soldiers, pilots, and medics who had given their lives in the cause of liberation. As the ceremony reached its climax, a young human woman took the stage. She was a diplomat, a scholar, and a veteran of the Galactic Exploratory Corps. In a voice filled with emotion, she spoke of the legacy of her ancestors, of the courage and determination that had carried humanity from the brink of annihilation to the forefront of the galactic stage. But she also spoke of the future, of the challenges yet to come, of the discoveries yet to be made, of the potential for growth and understanding that lay ahead. She spoke of a galaxy united, of a community of species working together to build a brighter tomorrow. As she finished, a hush fell over the crowd. Then, slowly at first, but with growing momentum, applause began to build. Humans and aliens alike rose to their feet, cheering and crying, overcome with a sense of pride and possibility. In that moment, the true legacy of humanity was clear. It was not just their victories in war or their achievements in science and diplomacy. It was their spirit, their resilience, their unshakable belief in a better future. They had come so far, from a small blue world on the edge of the galaxy to the leaders of a galactic civilization. They had faced challenges that would have broken lesser species, endured hardships that would have crushed weaker souls. But through it all, they had persevered, guided by a light that no darkness could extinguish. And as the celebration continued, as laughter and tears mingled under the stars, one truth shone brighter than any sun. As long as humanity stood together, as long as they held true to their ideals, there was no limit to what they could achieve. The galaxy was theirs, and the future was bright. The end.